The story begins with a seemingly routine vacation flight. A small private aircraft ready for takeoff suddenly experiences a technical issue. The plane, part of a fleet of aircraft frequently used for both leisure and business, was set to fly from a small regional airport in a quiet town in the US to a popular tourist destination. As the aircraft started its engine, an unexpected malfunction arose, leaving the pilot and crew perplexed. At first, the issue seemed minor, a slight sputter and a strange noise coming from the engine. But as the minutes passed, it became clear that the situation was more complicated than anyone had anticipated. The airport mechanics were called to inspect the plane. However, the initial checks didn't yield any answers. It was then that the airport's maintenance team decided to bring in outside help. American mechanics from a nearby aviation repair facility were summoned. 12 of the most experienced mechanics were on the scene within an hour. They were all veterans in their field, experts in various types of aircraft and aviation technology. Despite their years of experience, they struggled to pinpoint the problem. They tried various solutions, running diagnostics and replacing parts, but nothing seemed to work. Hours passed, and the passengers on board began to grow increasingly anxious. Some were even concerned that their vacation plans might be derailed. As the hours turned into a day, the situation grew more dire. The mechanics couldn't figure out the issue, and the aircraft was still grounded. Frustration began to build, but the team of mechanics was relentless. They consulted with their colleagues, searched through repair manuals, and even reached out to engineers at the aircraft's manufacturing company. Still, nothing worked. The situation seemed hopeless until an unexpected individual arrived. Just as the mechanics were about to throw in the towel, a Latina engineer, Carmen Rodriguez, arrived at the scene. Carmen had been traveling in the area, visiting family for a much-needed break after a busy year of work. Her background in mechanical engineering, however, was far from typical. With a degree from a prestigious engineering school and a few years of experience working for a major aerospace company, Carmen had become known for her problem-solving skills in the aviation world. Upon hearing about the aircraft breakdown, Carmen decided to offer her expertise, despite having no obligation to do so. She approached the plane, speaking calmly to the crew, and immediately began to assess the situation. The mechanics, who had been working tirelessly without success, were more than willing to listen. They had been facing a problem they couldn't solve, and Carmen's arrival gave them a renewed sense of hope. With quick, precise observations, Carmen began checking parts of the engine that the others had overlooked. She had an instinct for troubleshooting that came from years of working on complex systems. The American mechanics were skeptical at first. How could someone not directly employed in the aviation industry possibly know more than the professionals they had consulted? But Carmen's approach was methodical and confident. She immediately focused on a specific component in the engine that the mechanics had dismissed as a non-issue. Carmen spent the next several hours working alongside the American mechanics, discussing her observations and analyzing the symptoms of the plane's malfunction. After a deep dive into the engine, Carmen noticed a recurring issue with the fuel system that had been overlooked. The engine's fuel flow was irregular, and although the mechanics had tested many of the other systems, the fuel system had not been thoroughly checked. Using her knowledge of aerodynamics and mechanics, Carmen traced the problem back to a faulty fuel filter that had become clogged during the plane's previous flight. This blockage was preventing the proper fuel mixture from reaching the engine, which caused it to sputter and eventually fail. What made this issue more complex was that the blockage had developed subtly over time, and the symptoms had only manifested after the engine started its operation. Once she identified the issue, Carmen explained the problem to the team. She then worked with the mechanics to replace the filter, recalibrate the fuel system, and run a series of tests to ensure that the engine was running smoothly again. The process was methodical and precise, and Carmen's determination led the way. She worked with an intensity and focus that left a lasting impression on the team of mechanics who, despite their years of expertise, had missed this simple but crucial problem. After hours of work, the plane was ready for its first test flight. The mechanics watched nervously as Carmen climbed into the cockpit to conduct the test herself. It was a tense moment. Would the plane fly as expected, or would there be more complications? With a few quick adjustments and a test of the engine, Carmen's efforts paid off. The engine roared to life without hesitation. The plane had been fixed. Carmen's successful repair was nothing short of miraculous. The American mechanics, who had tried everything in their power to fix the plane, were amazed. For the Latina engineer, however, it was just another day on the job. Carmen had proven herself in an industry where women, particularly women of color, were often underrepresented. Her ability to solve the problem not only earned her the respect of the mechanics, but also challenged preconceived notions about the capabilities of women in technical fields. Despite the technical success, Carmen's story was also about breaking down cultural and gender barriers. In an industry dominated by men, Carmen's ability to step in and resolve a situation that had stumped 12 experienced mechanics spoke volumes about the importance of diversity in problem solving. She had done more than just fix a plane. She had shattered stereotypes and demonstrated the power of inclusivity in the workplace. As the passengers boarded the plane and prepared to continue their journey, Carmen was invited to speak to the mechanics about her journey in aviation. She spoke about the challenges she faced as a Latina woman pursuing a career in aerospace engineering, the obstacles she had to overcome, and the importance of never underestimating someone based on their background or appearance. Her words resonated with the team, many of whom had not considered the broader implications of diversity in their profession. After Carmen's success with the plane repair, she became somewhat of a local hero. The mechanics and airport staff, who had initially been skeptical, now recognized her as an expert in the field. The experience also had a broader impact on the aviation community as it highlighted the need for more diversity and inclusion within technical professions. Carmen's work didn't stop at the repair. She continued to mentor young engineers, particularly women of color, and encourage them to pursue careers in aviation and aerospace. She made it her mission to prove that anyone, regardless of gender or ethnicity, could excel in technical fields if given the opportunity and support. Her story traveled beyond the small airport. It was shared in aviation blogs, industry publications, and social media platforms. Carmen became an inspiration to countless young engineers who saw her as a role model. Her ability to challenge the status quo and rise above the challenges she faced in her career made her a symbol of hope and resilience. As for the American mechanics, they learned valuable lessons that day, not just about aircraft maintenance, but about the power of collaboration and the importance of keeping an open mind. They recognized that sometimes the solution to a problem may come from the most unexpected source, and that expertise comes in many forms. Carmen Rodriguez's name became synonymous with innovation, determination, and the breaking of barriers, both in aviation and beyond.